The Philadelphia Eagles remain undefeated. They're 7-0 after a dominating 35-13 win over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Coming off their bye week, Gino and I will recap the game right here on the Locked On Eagles postgame show.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Welcome in, Eagles fans, to the post-game show. I'm Louie DiBiase. He's Gino Camilleri. The Eagles dominate coming out of the bye week over the Pittsburgh Steelers. They get a 35-13 win to get to 7-0 on the season. Lincoln Financial Field was absolutely buzzing, Gino, and I think we have to start with the two guys that got them this win more than, and look, it was a dominating win from pretty much everybody, but Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, the chemistry and pure dominance these two put on together was spectacular. 6 catches for 156 yards and 3 touchdowns from Brown today. All 3 touchdowns were 25-plus yards. Topped his career high in receiving yards, which was week 1 against Detroit with 155. Howie Roseman getting A.J. Brown this offseason, the move of the year. And there's been a lot of great ones. Hassan Riddick, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, look how they dominated today, James Bradbury. But what A.J. Brown has done for Hurts, it was the move of the offseason. He was elite today.
Best Eagles wide receiver since Terrell Owens. I will stamp that as a fact.
Yes.
And I think today solidified what we had wanted to see from this Eagles team. We go back to last year. If you look at their offense last year statistically, they had only scored 35 or more points twice all season, and it took them until week 8 last year against Detroit to even hit that mark. So far through week 7, Lou, they've already put up 2 games of 35 or more points. How they're doing it, scoring points on offense, limiting the points on defense. I think if you look at what their offense did today, it's going to overshadow how dominant their defense was outside of 4th downs where they allowed Pittsburgh to kind of get back in it. But 1 for 12, allowing Pittsburgh on 3rd downs, that's absolutely insane.
And it's the Steelers, man. But look, when you dominate any team in the NFL like this, it shows how good a football team you really are. And, you know, Gino, we've talked about this on the show before, but Howie Roseman has always been an aggressive general manager. He has always invested in the receiver position. He's always tried his butt off to support his quarterback with the best stable of receivers, running backs, offensive linemen he can think of. But one thing that, and you've mentioned this before on the show, that he kept his picks a little tight to the holster at times when a Stephon Diggs was available, a DeAndre Hopkins. Sometimes it felt like he wasn't really willing to give up the 1 or the 2 to go get one of these players. And I think it really hurt Carson Wentz back in the day. And I think he learned from that and giving up that 1st-round pick for Brown. How Tennessee did not want to pay this guy is incredible. The one-on-one plays he made today. Again, it's just Jalen Hurts, a lot of the credit for his development goes to him and the work he's put in, but what A.J. Brown has meant to him in this offense is just, again, Howie Roseman, he really did learn from that mistake, and it's been so crucial this season.
I mean, going back to the Formula One car analogy, as I watch it while we're recording right now, go Mercedes, gonna have a good day. But if you look at that analogy, they had fine-tuned this thing to a T. And that next addition, that thing that got them over the edge, was A.J. Brown, because everything else around them, the offensive line was great. You already had a 1A, 1B receiver in Devontae Smith. You have a top 2 receiving tight end in the league right now in Dallas Goedert. All they needed was one more threat, and Howie Roseman knew when to pull the trigger. It looks like that extension that they already gave him is going to be a bargain for what he is going to deliver in his tenure in Philadelphia. You knew that he had the rapport going back to high school with Jalen Hurts, and it was so evident today that all of the times we say, can Jalen Hurts throw in these games against quarterbacks where, they might go touchdown, field goal, touchdown on consecutive drives? I think Jalen Hurts showed that today because they didn't even have to get into the red zone to score. All of those touchdowns in the air were over 25 yards.
That's right.
It was just unbelievable what he did. His accuracy, his timing, his placement of the football. Jalen Hurts, he set a record today, Lou. He is now the all-time leading Eagles quarterback when it comes to consecutive regular season wins. Today was his 10th in a row. He surpassed everybody else that has played quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. Man, this jump, Lou, is everything we could have expected and more.
Never thought this was possible, man. The ball placement today, the first touchdown
against Minka Fitzpatrick, man. Like, that's not a bad defensive back team they have there.
The first touchdown, what I love about it, it was just a 50-50 ball. Jalen Hurts, again, he just trusts A.J. Brown to go make a play. Was it a great throw? No. Were there two Steelers defenders there? Yes. But he knew, I have A.J. Brown, one of the most physical, dominant, one-on-one basketball-like players in the NFL, and I'm going to go throw it up to him and let him score. And he did just that. But it wasn't, again, you don't want to just give the credit to A.J. Brown, because when you look at those, the second and third touchdowns, the right sideline in the end zone, the ball placement Hurts put on the money to A.J. Brown was incredible. Hurts finishes the day 19 of 28 for 285 yards and a career-high 4 passing touchdowns, all of 25-plus yards. You look at the pocket presence, you look at the timing. Gino, he didn't even have to run the football today. What do you have, like 10 rushing yards? I mean, everything was within the pocket, and that's the exciting part.
I thought at halftime the discussion about not running the football was a little blown out of proportion because of how effective
they were dominating through the pass. Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, because we know that they could turn on this elite run defense at any given time. To score that 5th touchdown, they said, all right, we're just going to counter off tackle with Miles Sanders and pound this thing in and just cement the game. I'm not worried about that. I want to see Jalen Hurts continue to trust his wide receivers. And he almost had another big one to A.J. Brown, which he dropped in a bucket. A.J. just couldn't reel it in. And the thing I love about this offense, Lou, is that any given week, any player can go out there and shine. Devontae Smith didn't have the best day. He had a bunch of catches when needed. He picked up some crucial first downs, but he didn't have that 100-plus yard performance. Today was A.J.'s day, and he went out there, dominated. They knew the matchup that they loved.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely. And I'm fine with that because you're mixing in Dallas Goedert, you're mixing in Sanders. Everybody is getting the love. Even Zach Pascal today. He had a clutch touchdown for this team. And what he has been able to do as that 4th guy for them as a chess piece, I think one thing that we have to talk about, Lou, is the play design and the execution on some of these
touchdown,
plays.
Man. You look at that touchdown, they were running so many screen passes in the first half. They take advantage of it in the second half, thinking Pittsburgh's going to bite down. They're going to come downhill on these receiver screens. So what do? We fake a screen to Dallas Goedert, which we dial that play up a lot. We're going to have Zach Pascal leak out to the left sideline, wide open for a touchdown. I thought the work that Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen put in this bye week was superb because the game plan today was beautiful. And again, it's against the Pittsburgh Steelers without TJ Watt, so take it with a grain of salt, but this isn't an outlier performance. This is what they've been doing. And to see them come out of the bye with no rust is awesome.
To look back to where we were after week 7 last year, dropping that horrendous, what we called rock bottom game to the Las Vegas Raiders to move to 2-5. Today, I forget how close in the timeline that was, that we're only a year removed from how horrendous that offense looked for the first 7 games of the year. And now things are dialed in, and that's an excellent point you brought up, Lou. What Sirianni and Steichen did on the offensive side of the ball with 2 weeks to prepare. Well, good news. After this short week against Houston, you have another mini bye week before you take on, I believe it is Indianapolis, who they'll play that following week.
Or Washington,
then Indianapolis. Yeah. And that's another big time game in this division, which isn't slowing down. Dallas had another dominant performance, almost put up 50 over the Bears today. You have to keep the pedal to the metal. You have to remain consistent. And what they're doing now, this is status quo. Like you said, this shouldn't be a shocker, what they did today. We know how good they are on offense. We know how good they are on defense. They could get special teams dialed in. We might have something clicking here because...
See, it's not a shocker from what they're doing, Gino, but at the same time, I keep watching what Jalen Hurts has done. I'm like, wow, I didn't... We kept saying this is the ideal scenario, but I truly did not... You know, even in the offseason when I was talking about a lot of the optimistic approach to what this season could be, in my head, in the back, I'm like, I don't think they can get to where he can get to where I want them to be to truly win a Super Bowl. So it's extra sweet, to be honest. Some people think that, it's the opposite, but it truly is that much more sweet to watch the elite quarterback play in Philadelphia. I thought it was going to take a while still to find that. And we've had it in 2022 for sure. The Eagles take a dominating win over the Pittsburgh Steelers, 35-13. They moved to 7-0 on the season. Gino and I will continue to recap it coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles. And guys, today's post-game show of Locked On Eagles is brought to you by BetterHelp. Life has thrown us all curveballs. It's so important to show up for yourself and take care of yourself. Letting others help is just as important. That's where BetterHelp comes in. BetterHelp is online therapy. They're going to assess your needs and can match you with your own licensed professional therapist in less than 48 hours. I've been seeing a therapist now for a couple of years. It's really changed a lot of the ways I think about life in a positive way. I'll never recommend something more than BetterHelp to our listeners. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's professional therapy done securely online, available to people worldwide. You can log into your account anytime and send a message to your therapist. You can schedule weekly video or phone sessions so you don't have to be on camera if you don't want to. And getting a therapist every week is as easy as a few clicks on your laptop or your phone. With therapy too, it can take a couple times to find the right match with your therapist. BetterHelp makes it easy and free to change therapists if needed. Right now, they have a special offer for our Locked On Eagles listeners. Get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/LockedOn. That's 10% off your first month of online therapy at BetterHelp.com/LockedOn. We thank so much BetterHelp for sponsoring Locked On Eagles today. We thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Guys, make sure your second listen is the Locked On Sports Today podcast. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insight only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. We are recapping the Eagles' dominating 35-13 win over the Pittsburgh Steelers to get to 7-0 on the year. Gino, of course, Jalen Hurts, an MVP-like performance inside the pocket. That's the most exciting part. A.J. Brown dominating 6 catches for 156 yards and 3 touchdowns of 25 yards or more. Zach Pascal gets in on the action. Miles Sanders had a great second half to close out the game. He scores. Dallas Goedert made some big plays. Devontae Smith. And we talked about before the end of the first segment, what a great job Shane Steichen and Nick Sirianni did, it felt like, with the bye week, right? The game plan heading into this game. There was no rust on this team at all. And they especially worked on 2 areas of this offense that they were lacking for weeks, right? It was the deep ball and it was second half issues. Well, the deep ball, as I mentioned, all 4 of Jalen Hurts' touchdowns were of 25 yards or more. And in the second half, they scored 2 touchdowns, and I thought they were just as good as the first half. So to see this team fix those issues throughout that week on the bye, I mean, just such a prepared football team.
And I think that also shows that the way they scored and how fast they scored was completely different from some of these long drawn out drives that we have seen over the past couple of weeks, where you're seeing 12, 13, 14 play drives. You now see them having that other pitch in their arsenal where they say, yeah, we could throw it over 25 yards in the air, score touchdowns if we like our receivers in one-on-one matchups, or trust Jalen Hurts to hit that honey hole shot in cover 2, which he did multiple times to A.J. Brown. That just goes to show the trust that he has in his receivers, the trust the coaching staff has in him, and the offensive line giving him that time to go out there and continue to make plays week in and week out. And Jalen Hurts, above everything else, he is able to adapt his game as well. Because like you said, he didn't have to do it on the ground today. It came in the air.
Yeah, only 2 carries for 10 yards.
He is completely the definition of an 11-on-11 football player, where you are versatile. You have to stay on your toes when defending this kid. And what he has come to be as a pocket passer, Lou, it's beyond my wildest imagination of where he was
just so smooth
just
right
a
now,
few years ago. When I saw him at the Senior Bowl, I'm thinking, yeah, like I see a high-quality backup player, somebody who can
where
win
he
with
was
his
less than a year
athleticism.
ago, dude. To see where he
and
was
here
against,
we are today.
Yeah, to see where he was against Tampa Bay in that playoff game to right now seeing some of the plays he made in the pocket today, again, I truly could not believe it. Being in this offense for 2 years straight, you can definitely see, again, the mechanics are there, right? He's got the weapons, the ball placement's better, accuracy. but the timing and just the anticipation, he feels so much more comfortable. It's like he already knows what's going to happen pre-snap. And that's development, again, that maybe a lot of us did not think was going to happen for sure. And I think, Gino, a lot of the reason the deep ball wasn't working was, the last few weeks, teams were really utilizing the blitz against Hurts. And I feel like they did a good job picking that up today against Pittsburgh. So that's big.
And Jalen Hurts identifying that. When he realized that there was a blitz, there was man coverage, he was throwing that ball up there and letting it fly. And during the middle of the game, I had tweeted out that those touchdowns felt very similar to that touchdown play against Denver last year, where Jalen Hurts was willing to just put it up to his right side, go up, throw the ball, allow the receiver to make a play over a talented player last year in Pat Surtain, this year against Minkah Fitzpatrick multiple times. That's growth. That's development from your quarterback. And a lot of it has to come down to the cohesion between the personnel department and Howie Roseman, identifying what the coaching staff knew were Jalen Hurts' weak areas and bringing that together by bringing in players in Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, and A.J. Brown, who have far exceeded expectations in the synchronicities that they have with their quarterback in this season.
At least the Titans have Treylon Burks, right? So
yeah, he gets hurt getting out of bed every morning.
Man, Gino, let's get into the defense though. I mean, so this offense was so exciting. We had to talk about it, but the defense came out big today, continuing to dominate young, inexperienced quarterbacks like they did last year when they went 7-2 down the stretch. 6 sacks on Kenny Pickett today, 2 from Javon Hargrave.
Wow.
1 from Hassan Riddick, 1 from Milton Williams, 1 from Marlon Tuipulotu, and 1 from Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. That was big. And what I like especially was to see how good the defensive tackles were today. Hassan Riddick was awesome. And Brandon Graham in the first half was really good too. Maybe there was a little extra fire there.
Do you mean defensive ends? You said defensive tackles.
Sorry, I was saying defensive tackles. It's especially good to see the defensive tackles, although the edge rushers were good. To see what Hargrave did, to see what Fletcher Cox was doing, flying around today. Milton Williams getting a sack, Tuipulotu. It's going to be extra important for those guys to step up because who knows what this Jordan Davis injury is going to look like. He got carted off the field today. It looked like a knee injury. Wasn't great. He's very instrumental to the interior of this defense. So to see Javon Hargrave kind of look like the 2021 version and Fletcher Cox kind of look like that too, that's an encouraging sign. And to see the young guys that are going to have to maybe play more, that's important.
It was clear once Davis went out that the run game started to open up a bit.
That's what I'm nervous about.
Pittsburgh.
So,
but Jonathan Gannon, I thought, did a good job adjusting in this game. Early on, they were allowing a lot of yards, just like chipping down the field, one after another. And then he allowed his players to just go and play. And the thing with the Eagles defense and the depth they have on the defensive line, even though Jordan Davis does go out of the football game, you invested a high pick in Milton Williams last year. Marlon Tuipulotu has increased his ability in the pass rush game by losing weight in the offseason. He has refined his hand technique. He's an explosive player, and you're seeing that in those rotational minutes. And now these guys that have to step up to the plate, they had experience from last year, Lou. Milton Williams saw a lot of football last year. He will get more snaps if Jordan Davis continues to be out. But the one thing they also can depend on is moving those guys inside like they did with Brandon Graham a bunch.
Yeah, they used him a lot inside today. Yeah.
Because they added Robert Quinn, who is another edge rushing piece who, dude, his ability to bend around the corner is
he got there a couple times
excellent.
Today.
At a 32-year-old caliber player of what he is doing. Josh Sweat looked good again with what he could do. Hassan Reddick was getting after the quarterback. And this rotation that they have, it's starting to find its rhythm with just having 4 guys go and get to the quarterback. I know it's Kenny Pickett today, but it's good to see them. 6 sacks. I was expecting maybe 4 on the day, but they were all over the quarterback. And a lot of it has to do with what happened on the back end as well. James Bradbury plays shutdown football. It seems like Darius Slay, every time he's thrown at, the few times he is thrown at, he makes a play.
That's the thing, man. It's like Kenny Pickett was the quarterback
right now.
Right, but Kenny Pickett was the quarterback, but that team still has Najee Harris in the backfield.
Yeah.
They have George Pickens on the outside. They have Deontay Johnson inside. They have Chase Claypool. That's a lot of talent that did pretty much nothing.
Freiermuth is getting really
Freiermuth's a good
too.
tight end. Yeah, I mean, James Bradbury, Darius Slay, Avonte Maddox, I thought had a good game. And how about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Gino? Just continues to stay hot. He had an interception and a sack on the day. He's got 4 picks this year and a pick in 3 straight games. Marcus Epps looked really good against the run. It was an entire dominating performance from pretty much everybody. I don't know if anybody even had a bad game. A couple rare drops from Devontae Smith maybe, but when we do stock up, stock down tomorrow, again, it's going to be mostly positive.
Outside of special teams, I'm going to continue to hit
Hey,
on
Zach
that.
McPherson made a play, though, pinning him at the 1, but
he did.
That fake punt, I could feel you from, thousands of miles away throwing your hands in the air.
And Brandon Graham, what are you doing on a field goal? Getting
kind of
disconcerting
funny, it screwed them, but it's such a Brandon Graham kind of penalty where he's barking and trying to say hike at the other team.
Yeah, but overall, it was
yeah.
just bad, and it will come back to bite them against better teams. But overall, like you said, man, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I think, is just that cherry on the top of this offseason and all the acquisitions they made. Go back to the days of Just Okoye and Hassan Riddick, how far they have come. They have now acquired all of this talent in just a few short months. That is continuing to reap the rewards that they put in by adding high-quality football players. It's an easy thing to believe in, but the execution, it doesn't always line up. Howie Roseman, great job bringing in the guys that have really performed up to what you have given up for them and what you have paid them this offseason.
That's the thing, man. You look at so many new faces, especially on defense, how they're all meshing and gelling so well. Just speaks volumes to the culture, the cohesion of the front office and the coaching staff. It just feels like they had a plan. And these are just really good football players too, Gino. That's the thing.
Definitely.
I mean, you're bringing in some top-tier guys this offseason. These weren't random role players. So, of course, just talent is going to eventually, show itself on the football field. And they did that today against the Pittsburgh Steelers. 35-13 win. The Eagles are 7-0. We'll continue to recap it coming up next. This is the Locked On Eagles postgame show.
Before we wrap up this edition of the Eagles postcast edition, the 7-0 edition, we have a message from our friends over at Blue Nile. Folks, I'm getting married in 10 months, August 24th next year. And being a guy, I always forget that you have to buy a wedding band. You already bought an engagement ring, but you also have to buy a wedding band for your fiance on that day. So what am I doing? I'm going to BlueNile.com. As the original online jeweler, Blue Nile offers even more and has the biggest selection of independently graded diamonds and pieces priced significantly below traditional retailers. It has helped millions of couples, myself included. Blue Nile, they have engagement rings, they have wedding rings, they have every shape, size, and clarity that you want. If you want a piece of fine jewelry to commemorate a special milestone, but you're still having trouble, go to BlueNile.com today. They have experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift. Shop stress-free with Blue Nile's 100% satisfaction guarantee. All Blue Nile orders are insured and shipped for free in discreet packaging. They also offer overnight shipping if you are in a rush. I have 10 months, but hey, if you're somebody who likes to wait a little bit, you can get your ring in time. Make your moment sparkle with BlueNile.com. Go to BlueNile.com and use Locked On as the promo code. That's LOCKEDON to save $50 on your first purchase of $500 or more. That's Blue Nile, BLUENILE.com, code Locked On to save $50 on your purchase of $500 or more.
We thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. This is the postgame show. The Eagles take it to the Pittsburgh Steelers, 35-13 to get to 7-0 on the year. Gino, they got the Houston Texans Thursday, so it's a quick turnaround. Gardner Minshew and most of the backups were playing in the fourth quarter. That was the first time. I thought it was the first time since 2017 a quarterback was pulled from the Eagles because of a dominant performance. Forgot last year, though, Hurts was pulled in that Lions game where Gardner Minshew came in. But they got a quick turnaround here against Houston, but this reminds me of the middle of that 2017 schedule where they could just start stacking wins. They already are. Obviously, it's 7-0, but with Houston coming up, and then you got Washington on Monday night, Sam Ehlinger and the Colts. We talked about it on the show, but the opportunity for this team to keep it going and try to secure that 1 seed. I can't believe we're talking in 2022 about the Eagles securing a 1 seed, but that's the reality right now. It looks very promising.
they put that graphic up on the CBS broadcast, and Jim Nantz and Tony Romo were talking about it, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it, and my fiance looks at me and she's like, can we really go undefeated? And I don't like
I'm trying not to think about it, but
it's like jinx it. But if they continue to play this style of football, this fashion of football, where they can beat you many different ways. They can beat you in the air. They can beat you on the ground. They can beat you defensively. They'll just continue to wear you down with the rotation that they have on the defensive line. And eventually those turnovers are going to come. They have a plus 14 turnover differential through 7 games. They're getting 2 more possessions on average per game. That's a winning recipe for football. How often they're scoring 24 or more points. They've done it 6 out of their first 7 games. They continue to put up another 30-plus point performance. It's hard to say that they can't beat anybody on their schedule. And that's why when we had the discussion earlier this week saying, could this team compete with the Buffaloes, with the Kansas Cities? Yeah, why not? What is this Eagles team?
Oh, nothing. They're not lacking anything. When you have these kind of weapons, when you have a quarterback playing this good, outside of Josh Allen, he's a top MVP candidate, an elite offensive line, a defense playing like this on the defensive line, in the secondary. Yeah, I agree. And we talked about it Friday. That was the question we posed, and they backed it up on Sunday with explosive offense. Gino, let's take a look at our LOE 3 presented by Bet Online. I think we killed that too, right?
I had a kind of bad day.
Let's see. You had Hurts more passing yards than Kenny Pickett.
Easy.
That hit. Hurts anytime rushing touchdown, and Smith over 55 receiving yards. Okay, yeah. So you went
that negative 10-yard screen pass really killed me. As soon as you went backwards there, it was kind of downhill.
So Hurts had over 227.5 passing yards, so I hit that one. A.J. Brown, more receiving yards than Deontay Johnson. Crushed that one.
Mm-hmm.
And then Devontae Smith, more yards than George Pickens. Did I get that? Devontae Smith finished with 23 yards on the day.
What did Pickens finish with? I think
Pickens had no receptions. So
not one reception. Hey, there we go.
So that's big. I needed that because I was 7-11 on the year.
10-11 ain't bad.
10-11. I'm getting back to 500. You know, it's like you said. You always say, man, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
And I think that's a great lesson for this Eagles team. It was a sprint out of the gate. You started hot. You put together back-to-back good performances, and then you start to play better teams. And Minnesota Vikings, they're sitting at 6-1. You beat them. Dallas Cowboys are 6-2. You had beaten them. This team is beating any opponent of any caliber in many different ways. They're multiple, they're physical, and they will continue to play 4 quarters of football. And that's the thing I love about this team. Not once have I ever seen this team and seen somebody taking a play off or seen somebody not playing through the whistle or the end of the game. Even when it's completely out of reach for Pittsburgh, TJ Edwards with the play of the game, tipping the ball right before a touchdown is caught, and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's able to get an interception. And this team just loves to play hard. And like you said, Lou, talent above everything else, it can make up for so many things. And it is so evident this year, man.
It feels like, I don't know, the journalist in me, when we're just talking so much about the positives, in my head I almost feel guilty. It's like, what are you missing? Are you not looking enough into?
Dude, we've beat this team down so much over the past 4 years.
But what I'm saying is there isn't anything to really complain about unless you're completely nitpicking. You could talk about the special teams unit, but this team, this isn't just homer talk. They are undefeated for a reason. Everything is working on both sides of the football. And that's a lot of fun to talk about. So there's nothing negative. I mean, that's just the reality. It's not just on
the field, though. It's everything else. It's the culture that Nick Sirianni has brought in and established. It's how well this new regime of coaches has gotten along with Howie Roseman, because we knew the tumultuous relationship towards the end of Howie and Doug Peterson, and the results kind of speak for themselves. And what can happen in just one offseason, Lou, when you trust your coaches, you trust your players, you surround them with good football players and give them everything they need to win football games. This Philadelphia Eagles organization, above everything else, has done a spectacular job now for multiple decades of finding a way to have a bad season, but come back and put together multiple good seasons year over year. And that's why, sitting here a year removed from what was the most gut-wrenching performance I had seen as an Eagles supporter, as somebody covering the show against Las Vegas, how far things have changed in a year. You could see how some teams sit and just live in that purgatory of mediocrity. The Philadelphia Eagles will leave no rock unturned to get out of that department and find their way to competing year after year after year.
And they look damn good right now. They take it 35-13 to stay undefeated over the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're 7-0 on the year. We got the Houston Texans on Thursday. Gino and I will have you covered all throughout the week, Monday through Friday, on all podcast platforms and on YouTube as well. So make sure you subscribe to Locked On Eagles wherever you get the show, and follow us on Twitter at Locked On Birds, at DiBiase LOE, and at GC24_football. Once again, thanks for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. For your next listen, go check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. For Gino Camilleri, I'm Lou DiBiase. That's going to do it for the Locked On Eagles postgame show. 35-13. Go enjoy those highlights in the rest of your football Sunday. As always, thank you for downloading. Thank you for watching and listening. And let's go, Birds.
Fly, Eagles, fly.